Vacation going?
It's good.
Good,
Vacation's
good.
very good.
Good. Oh, here we go.
The meeting will now come to order with our roll call. Mr. Landwehr, Ms. Sari, Mr. Johnson,
Here.
Mr. Granlund,
Here.
Mrs. Livingston Matherly,
Here.
and Mrs. Zawicki.
Here.
All please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The agenda was posted throughout the district according to school board policy, published as a legal ad in the Superior Telegram, posted on the district webpage, and sent to the WNXR radio station for announcement. A meeting notice was sent to the Connection for publication. We will begin with approval of the November 9th, 2020 agenda. Need a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Do we have a
Second.
second? We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting. All in favor, say aye. Oppose the same sign. That motion carries. Moving on to consent agenda, beginning with the October 12th, 2020 board meeting minutes, which are in your packet, and then our treasurer's report. Mr. Granlund.
Thank you. The summary of the Treasurer's Report as of October 31, 2020. In the general fund general account, on October 31, 2020, there was a balance of $2,841,683.56 in cash and investments. Receipts since the 1st of November and not included in the October 31 balance were $5,909.75, and the disbursements from tonight's board meeting total $151,846.27. In the flexible spending account on October 31, 2020, there was a balance of $19,583.59 in cash and investments. The health reimbursement account on October 31, 2020, there was a balance of $3,621.76 in cash and investments. In the debt service fund on October 31, 2020, there was a balance of $673.12 in cash and investments. The capital projects fund on October 31, 2020, there was a balance of $37,095.86 in cash and investments. And there's a way more detailed report of each of these fund activities for people's review, if they want to take a look at that. And that's the end.
Thank you, Mr. Granlund. We have payment of invoices in your packet. And then we'll start with resignations.
We have Maureen McGrath, 0.5 FTE online teacher for grades 4 and 5. And we have a retirement, Julie Anderson, part-time custodian at NES after 10 years of service. Her letter is on the table since that came in, since your board packets were already distributed. Employment recommendations, may I go right on to that? Robert Lear and Emma Abrahamson for 2 of the 4 contracted substitute teacher positions that the board approved last month. Cheyenne DeRozier, part-time, 7 hours per day, 4 days per week, special education paraeducator in the early childhood program. Brecken Zwicki, part-time, 10 to 15 hours per week as needed, teacher assistant for the Tiger's Den program. Colin Wita for the 0.5 online teacher position for grades 4 and 5. He's currently the part-time art teacher for IRES. And good news, we do have an interview coming up for the K1 online teacher position this week. Request for a leave of absence. We have received a request from Jerry Nellison a special education paraeducator who'd like to be gone through May 21st. I think that's
You mean
Yeah.
May 2021?
I'm sorry, May 2021. So she'd start back May 1st of 2021. Thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Okay.
Okay.
Are there any questions?
She would start,
Back again. She
Would it
wants to
the
be on a
absence
leave
is
without.
through May.
Through May, so June 1st?
I don't know, at today's meeting, it does, but at today's meeting, Mr. Fetchel-Cotter is going to call her to confirm. Let's approve it through May. However, if she's able to come back early, then that's a hallelujah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we would look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda for tonight's meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to approval items, our first one is a discussion and update to the district COVID-19 plan and restrictions for building use. And we have two people in the audience that wish to comment on that, so we will call on them first. Greg Nelson and Sarah Nelson. There's a mic right behind you.
I just want to say thank you to the board for how far you've gotten us in the situation we're in. It can't be easy to make those decisions. My only recommendation reason I'm here is nobody knows what's going to happen as far as if the kids are going to be able to continue in school or go virtual. I just want to reiterate the importance of activities, extracurricular activities, in the hope that if they do go virtual, that they would still be able to continue to be here for activities of some sort. And I'm talking high school level here, because these kids, it's something that they've been working towards and are part of their whole life. And we're trying to keep some kind of normalcy for them. And I think that as long as they follow the same protocols that have been going on already with, being quarantined and missing, I think less kids around here would make it more of an opportunity for them to have a successful opportunity to participate in extracurricular activities. And I'm not talking just sports. I'm talking about all the stuff that the kids are involved in that give them a reason to want to be in school and to work hard. I just think that's important. And one of the other things that along those lines is obviously there's been an issue with more cases, and it's coming out all the time. I'm hoping that there's a discussion at least to look at going back to the cohort model before going all the way to all virtual, because I feel as a teacher I can speak firsthand how important it is that these kids are at school, at least some, to have that teacher contact. I have students that I struggle a lot when they're not in school, and I think it'd be important for them to at least try the cohort model before they would go all virtual. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Sarah?
Good evening, everybody. And I'll just follow up a little bit with what my husband Greg said. I'm just here because I get the viewpoint across the state, and I am so proud of Maple. I'm proud. I'm gonna cry. I'm proud because you chose to go the cohort model. And as a leader and an administrator in the state of Wisconsin, I just really urge you to dig deep right now around making decisions and not go night and day. Think about in stages like you did. Think about implementation of those stages, the successes that we had from the cohort model before we go to all virtual and before we consider all virtual. So think about that. If you need any assistance or guidance around that, please reach out. But I'm just here to urge you to contemplate possibly that direction if that is the way that we need to move forward based on cases and keeping everybody safe and healthy. So thanks.
Thank you for your comments. All right, now for the board.
I have something in regards to the non-school group use. Should I talk that now, or do you want to talk about back-to-school plan?
It is, we've got two topics. One, which one did you want to take first? The non-school use first, and then the second?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead then.
Okay, well, my concern relates to the activities. And I think, first of all, I think that the school, and Sarah's, I agree with her, that the school has done a terrific job. The from administrators down to the custodians, the students, bus drivers, the janitors, done a tremendous job. And I've had people from other districts compliment, boy, Northwestern's doing a good job. And School District of Maple's doing a good job. So I think the protocols in place have been working, and getting the kids to buy into everything, and I think that's been great. As far as the non-school gym use, there's a couple things. In May, they surveyed the University of Wisconsin Health Department, a very scientific group, did a survey as far as the kids, and there was a big increase because of lack of activity in May, in high school activity. This is kids 14 through 17. And I think Mr. Smith brought this up at a different meeting, but there's like 70% of the athletes who weren't able to play had some mental health issues. I mean, some were mild, obviously, but mostly anxiety and depression. So the mental health was definitely affected by not having high school sports. Another study was done in September, and it related to the coming back to activities. In that study, they studied 30,000 athletes in the state. And as far as contacting the virus, 271 of those ended up with positive viruses, positive tests. Of those 271, they could only find one that was related to sports. 210 were related to other things, and about 60 of them, they couldn't really contact them and trace those. So basically what the article and what the study found out, that the sports weren't really spreading the coronavirus. And so with that being said, for those who don't know, maybe there's somebody watching online from Kansas or something, I'm involved in the basketball world at Northwestern. And the non-school basketball players last year amounted to around 250 players. That's grades 3 through 12. And if you include the high school kids, the boys and the girls, that's over 300. So it's over 30% of the kids are involved in the basketball. And that's a big chunk of our student body. Now the travel teams, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, the boys and girls, so there's at least 8. They typically, and what this plan would stop, they typically have a home tournament in the Great Northern Basketball League, which 2 teams would play tournaments on that particular day, like the 6th and 7th grade. On those days, you would have 16 teams in here and over 500 people. So we won't be able to do that. And, I don't think anybody will disagree with that in this, the way things are today. And that would be like 4 different dates. So understanding that, I don't think that most schools around the state are not hosting. The hosting is coming from facilities that aren't owned by the schools. But in lieu of that, what I would propose, and I'm not going to make a motion tonight, but next month I want to bring forward, or maybe January, bring forward that we allow each of these traveling teams to host up to 2 other schools at a time, beginning January 15th, with the following additional protocol. They'd have to follow the school protocol that we will establish tonight. 22 people per team. That includes players, fans, and coaches. The teams would situate on opposite sides of the gym, opposite the other team, socially distanced. Everyone would leave immediately after their event is completed. And then the permission would be verified as late as the day before the event, because with the COVID testing, things are changing so much. Part of the issue is if we can't do something for these kids, because in these groups, there isn't enough for having a league among the fifth graders or sixth graders, because there's not that many of them, but in lieu of that, what these teams would do is go to Minneapolis, Wisconsin Dells, go to these other gyms that they could find available where we can't control the protocol. And, I think it would behoove us to be able to control the environment and the protocol. So I'm probably going to bring forward this next month as an amendment to our plan. So,
Just a little heads up
yeah, it's a heads up.
and
So that's
something to
the,
think
And
about.
is that
And
because it wouldn't really, is that because it wouldn't really be an issue for them to be doing those till next month anyways? So that's why we're not bringing it up now?
Because
Okay.
as we're taking it step by step, hopefully in December, they'll be able to get into the gyms and practice,
I see what you're
but
saying.
not play,
Okay,
they're not playing games or anything. And
I see. Okay.
January would take the next step, and this would maybe be part of the next step.
Okay.
So, but, things change every day with this testing, so who knows?
that's very true.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
One thing I noticed, is mine on? I think so.
Yes,
Yeah.
you're on.
One thing I noticed, which I thought worked really well at one of the away schools, just as a thought, if we do end up hosting things or whatever, if it gets to that, is some of the schools have been doing where they have, which it actually is a great idea. They have the away group come in a different door and a completely different ticket person, and then they go on one side, which would be very easy in the way our gym is set up. They could come in the one door, do their ticket
Separate
thing through the
entrances,
other side.
right.
Yep. And then they operate on their side, and then they leave right after the game. And then our group goes in the other side. What it does is it just avoids the cross contamination of two towns.
Right, and the other thing that's done in AAU tournaments is they escort the people in, the teams, the parents, the coaches, they escort them in. When the game's over, they escort them out. So there's different things.
And I know a lot of kids and parents are saying, look, we just want to play, so we'll do whatever we have to do, So, I mean, I think you do get a good cooperation if you have to go that route, because people want to be able to play and they want to be able to watch, and it's one possibility. Just throwing it
Yeah,
out there.
No, that's a good one.
Okay. Do you want to go over the
I think
the
so for
plan
our
that-
online people, because they
Yes.
don't know what all the specifics are.
Mhm.
For the non-school group facility usage with COVID-19 pandemic, the school district of Maple will have expectations of non-school groups requesting the use of district facilities and of adult and student participants and spectators at non-school sponsored events and programs. In order to help mitigate the spread of the virus so we can continue to maintain educational and school-sponsored co-curricular activities, groups will need to follow these guidelines. 1, non-school student groups must be able to verify that all members of the group and all participants in the activity held at the school district of Maple facilities are enrolled at and attend the school district of Maple either in person or online. Participants and spectators attending non-school sponsored events at the school district of Maple will be required to wear a mask at all times. 2, spectators' capacity will be limited due to social distancing requirements. 3, there will be no concessions or food to be served at non-school sponsored events. 5, competitions, games, tournaments with groups from outside the school district of Maple will not be allowed at school facilities. 6, people, players and spectators should not attend any event if they tested positive for COVID-19 in the last 14 days, have been identified as a close contact to a person with COVID-19 in the last 14 days, experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, fever, chills, cough, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing, muddy muscle, body aches, headache, new loss of taste or smell, sore throat, congestion, runny nose, nausea, vomiting, or diarrhea. And the last bullet, if a child does not feel well, please stay home. Number 7, these protocols must be followed for us to continue to allow non-school groups into the facilities and host events, practices with spectators. An increase in positive cases will lead to the possible cancellation of events. Failure to follow these guidelines could lead to suspension of facility usage. The conversation during admin team when this was thoroughly discussed is we cannot control this. We have to rely on the group that's coming in to police it. But if spot checks are done and word gets back that this is not being followed, that permission could get pulled. That's what we've got for the non-school group facility usage. Question on that?
Do you think there's a possibility we could have the players, the participants, not wear a mask?
That was thoroughly discussed. The conversation had to do with volleyball. The team players did have to have masks, and they seemed to be okay. And again, we have the health of all at our forethought. As of this moment, admin team is focused that this is where they're coming from. And with a higher number of cases than when this was even discussed, I can't imagine the admin team recommendation being anything different than this. As the season goes on, if the situation changes, I certainly will bring it back to admin team for another conversation, but it wouldn't change without bringing it back to the full board as all of this. We've always been bringing it back to the board.
Are the high school players required to wear masks or not?
Mr. Smith?
Okay.
That's indoor only though, right?
I
That's
did,
what we're talking
So
about
for
is
basketball,
basketball.
No, I'm just making
Yep,
a
yep.
clarification.
What was the conversation with the ADs from the Heart of the North about masks once it was, the 21st was done? Was that a conversation, Mr. Smith? You haven't decided anything, okay. Okay. And what we would do is let the Heart of the North conversation get back to the board, because we would want to make our own decisions based on our own data, but we would certainly want to hear from the Heart of the North.
Well, it seems to me if our high school
Opponents.
students are required to wear masks, then that would just trickle down to the younger
Right,
ones
but
as
yet
well,
the
I
point
think.
Mr. Granlund is making, if instead the high school students are not required to wear masks, would that be the case for the non-school groups? And I would think that that needs to be another admin team conversation, and then I bring it back to you guys.
there is wearing the mask. I did attend some volleyball games. I would have gotten a couple more, but I just forgot. But I did attend some. By the fourth game, our girls were laboring quite a bit, pulling the mask off and trying to breathe. And I don't think that is that healthy. I guess it's not coronavirus, but it can't be healthy either, so.
But that's by the fourth game. With basketball,
Right.
yeah, they're not playing 4 games, they're,
Well, it's the same time, it's an hour of playing.
okay,
I'm sure it's difficult.
Yeah, yeah,
There's certainly no argument about
right,
that.
right.
Um,
Is the board comfortable with going what the Heart of the North does? Because what Heart of the North has said is for some of this stuff, yes, they want to stay together and they want to listen to each other, but they've been doing their own thing based on their own community and your own data and your own numbers. So I would love to hear from the board what you're thinking on that.
Can I speak? I got a few things as well. Mike, I appreciate everything that you said. I couldn't agree more. I want, I think everybody knows, I want kids in school as much as possible, as often as possible, whatever we need to do to make that work. I want extracurriculars to happen. I want I want these kids to have an experience at school, in the community, as often and as much as they can. I think a lot of stuff has been taken away from these kids, K through 12. I think, personally, I think some of the high school students are seeing some more effects of it than middle school and elementary school, because they're young adults. I think they're able to process things a little bit differently, and I think there's a fair amount of them struggling with certain aspects of things that are being taken away. And like Greg said, having the ability to have these kids in the school for extracurriculars is important. So that's my 2 bits on that. As far as the proposal for having non-school group facility usage, now, I don't want to spread a rumor by any means, so I want to get clarification if I could. Last month, we said we're not doing anything as far as any extra non-school groups in the schools until November
30th?
30th. And then Hoop League, does that sound familiar? I was under the impression then that has been allowed in. Is that true? Does anybody?
That's our own program.
That is our own program. It's a Northwestern sponsored program.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Okay. So, and I didn't know that it was sponsored by the school. I thought it was a non-group event, and I thought there was now all of a sudden some exception that was made, which frustrated me. So I appreciate the clarification. The Heart of the North Conference, who makes that decision for the Heart of the North Conference? The athletic directors?
The athletic directors meet together, have recommendations, then it comes to the superintendent group, and then the superintendent group chews it through. But the last decisions have been where, when we were deciding capacity, and it was a 60-40 split, 60% of the tickets of the capacity for
Right.
social distancing, home team got 40%, away team. Then you have St. Croix Falls, where nobody gets to go. They have honored whatever the district is making decisions. Ours was a 70-30 split, 70%, 30 for the away team coming on in. So that's how it's pretty much been, is honoring and respecting what the district is doing in their own realm. Don't know as far as the mask thing though, putting our students at a disadvantage, that's a different issue. I'm not personally comfortable putting our kids at a disadvantage if all the other Heart of the North schools are saying no masks for the players. And then right
Yeah.
now, our policy says for our own, kids, not this extra one here, our own, that they would have to wear masks. That I'm personally not comfortable with, and I'd want to bring that back to the board.
So then my concern with that is going to be, if the other Heart of the North Conference schools say players don't have to wear masks, and then we say that we have to, talking about the disadvantage, I understand that on one hand. On the other hand, I can't wrap my head around why we have to have all these kids wear masks then during the day, but you don't have to at an event where you're breathing much heavier. You are, I mean, I sweat like an old pig. So, I mean, that happens, especially in basketball. You're bouncing around, you're moving, you're bumping people. I mean, when you look at what, I'm going to say people that are more educated, but not necessarily smarter than I am, are saying that this is okay. Everybody in the audience has to have a mask on. But the players who are, I guess, spewing more,
Spittle.
whatever you want to call it, out, that's okay. It's an inconsistency that I struggle with. I see, we want people to wear masks at the football games. We're not, but we trance people out, students and staff out for appreciation days, or the coaches take the last game of the year picture and everybody pulls a mask down and they're all right next to each other. How can we be consistent? I think the only thing we're consistent at is being inconsistent. So either you have a mask, which I mean, my feelings are what they are, or you don't. I don't understand how you can end up saying, this is it, but then as soon as you start playing some physical activity, you can pull it off. I don't, again, unless somebody can show me something more in actual evidence, because you know, we've had a mask mandate now for a number of months, and I think every state in the country's rising at an unbelievable rate. So I struggle with, is it even work? Does it not work? And I don't have the answer to it, but what I'm saying is, I don't like the fact that everybody has to enter the building. We're going to keep everybody separate. We got to use separate doors. Being cautious, doing that stuff, I'm not going to argue with it. But then let's get on a basketball court and then yank everything off. How does that? I mean, I'd be more worried about the guy on the court than the person sitting on the bench, and that's the one that has to have the mask on. We're not going to have anybody in the first row because we're concerned about that on one hand. On the other hand, what are we saying? Just not just us, but I'm saying that as a generality here. So I like the fact that we're going to open the schools up. I like the fact that we're going to allow this stuff to happen. I would propose that we do it right now, but I will respect what we're asking here as far as the 1st of December goes. But I just, and why is December 1st the magical date that this is okay now? And I don't mean to sit here and be devil's advocate or craw anybody's emotions here, but those are my things. So I mean, I appreciate all the effort that got put into it. I like how it happened. I like the fact that we're going to allow it to be. I guess that ends my rant.
Okay, I'll pick up from there. I don't think there's a single person here in this room that would honestly say they don't want to see us back to normal. We all want to be back to normal. We all want our children to do sports. We all want our children to be in school. Lord knows we want our children to be in school, and so forth. That really isn't in dispute. I think what is clearly in dispute with a lot of people, even with this board and the school and the communities, is mask or no mask. And I get that to a certain degree. But I am going to just state the obvious. I know I do this every month, guys. We are in a pandemic. Our cases are going up. I really find it hard to believe that we have cases going up when 2 people are 6 feet apart wearing masks. What we have is we have exceptions. We're not perfect. We have some people that can't wear a mask. We have some people who have small kids who maybe just, happen to cough on somebody, things like that. We know that's happening in our schools. That's why we have cases. We also know that if we can follow the procedures that are laid out by doctors, then we're going to better our chances. We're not foolproof. We're going to have cases. We're going to have problems. But we are going to at least be able to be more normal if we just do some simple things. I know it stinks in sports when we have to wear masks. I know it. I put this on when I go to see my elderly parents who are in their 80s. But I do it because even if it doesn't work that great, even if it only works a little bit, it's better than nothing. And that's where I think we have to really be thinking. And I know, again, I'm not going to keep rambling, but I'm just going to say, it stinks. It's not great right now. None of us like this. None of us are thrilled. But until we get through this, we got to do our part. And I think that it's going to mean we have to keep our masks on. We really do.
Can I ask then what the exception to that is? Because after a volleyball game, as an example, the team gets together with the coaches in the gym, they pull their masks down, they snap a picture. That's not consistent with what we're trying to do. Nobody's enforcing that. So the most consistent thing that we've been is inconsistent. And that's just not us as a school, that's us as a community and as a country and everything else. We're consistently inconsistent.
That is correct.
So-
And that is a problem that we're having, and we do need to be more consistent. Now, it's not to say you're right. If you stand for that photo, if you stand for a second and take a photo, Is that smart? Probably not. But it's very different from doing 20 seconds next to each other, smiling and taking a photo than it is to, having full-on spitting conversations with each other for an hour or two. Do you see what I'm getting at? So, I mean, yes, it's still not right. You are correct.
So you're saying that that's okay?
15 minutes is the number that we've been given. 15 minutes in a 24-hour period, mask or no mask, it doesn't matter. As far as the health department, it doesn't matter. It's the 6 feet is the issue
And
for
like
15 minutes.
I'm saying,
Less than
We're-
6 feet. And I'm
we're
sorry, I don't mean to
not-
talk over
Yeah.
you, Dan. I apologize.
yeah, and like I'm saying, Adam, is you're absolutely right. We're not perfect. That we're not doing everything 100% the right way. You are absolutely right. But even if we can do things 80% of the times right, I really think we're going to help to keep our numbers down. So I mean, I just feel like anything's better than nothing.
And I won't disagree with that. I mean, but, so to go back to your 15 minutes.
15 minutes is what they've
So
told us.
15 minutes, less than 6 feet.
15 minutes, under 6 feet, we got a problem. If it's 6 feet, whether you had a mask on or we didn't have a mask on, but we were 6 feet, we're not a close contact.
Okay.
She doesn't have to quarantine if I come down with it.
I really think that this long discussion,
It's turned into
I,
something
I
more.
will be shocked if the mandate isn't extended anyway. The numbers are nothing but up in Wisconsin. It just wouldn't even make any sense for the governor to say, okay, you can throw out the masks now. I don't have any inside information. I do have this, though. My daughter told me today, who works for Mayo in Rochester, and so we can kind of watch for this, that there is a study coming out of a very, very large study about the effectiveness of masks. I don't know what the results are, and even if she told me something about it, I would have to see it before I would report to all of you. But it includes even the homemade ones and how effective they are in the fight against this disease. So let's watch for that. But in the meantime, like I say, we might be having a long discussion on something we can't really control yet
Anyway, right.
But I appreciate all of your thoughts, and I understand exactly what you're saying. But are we willing to, I also want to say, are we willing to really die on the field with the kid that takes that mask off for a picture? Are we going to say to them, okay, you're out.
Yeah.
You took that mask off for that amount of time. We have to use some common sense there too. From what I've been told, the kids have been
Wonderful.
wonderful.
Kids have been wonderful.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the basketball thing, I think we just have to kind of stay tuned with what the governor does. And then have our discussion, I guess.
Mhm.
That's what I think.
And as of this moment, I can always keep you informed, through a weekly update as to if we do hear back. My guess is that they'll have a lengthy discussion. They'll pass it on to the superintendents, and the superintendents, yes. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yes. What Mr. Smith said is that if the governor's mandate is extended, then our high school athletes will continue to wear masks. Our wrestlers, our basketball will continue. What the conversation is that if the governor's mandate is done as of the 20th of November, we will have a board meeting on the 14th of December. And if we need to bring back the conversation that the superintendents in Heart of the North are all over the place, some are requiring masks, some are not, where do you stand? I would have had another admin team meeting because I'm bringing you what admin team is saying right now is they would, for this group, for the outside groups, it's got to wear masks. For our own students, Mr. Smith, do you recall what we decided as admin team for our own students? School groups. Nope, during sport, during a basketball game, during a wrestling. Yes. Got it, because right now the WIAA is saying everybody else wears masks, but the players do not. Correct? Right, but then our own players will not. Right. But the conversation about the non-school groups coming on in, we were requiring them to, because again, they're non-school coming on into our facilities, even to use our facilities. Our admin team was saying, hey, basically you're fortunate enough to even be allowed to use our facilities. We want it as safe as possible. That was part of the conversation.
So, can I ask one more thing?
Yep.
Sorry, Nancy. So then why are we waiting till December 1st?
I was going to ask the same question. Is
You
there
can-
something magical about that date? or
Only
could we-
because your last plan we shared with the public was going to go through the 30th. You can change anything and say, make it starting tomorrow. That is what, that's the why, is that we go one plan and we don't want to come across to our public like, oh, well, now they changed it again and they
Right.
changed it again. So that's the why we're being slow, we're being consistent in that regard, and we are communicating. So it would give us from now until December 1st for communicating and getting groups, apprised. However, you can, as a board, say whatever the motion is that you want to say and make it starting tomorrow. Yes, Mr. Granlund?
Just FYI, it's a massive scheduling issue because there's a lot of teams that want to get in the gyms. So I know Mr. Smith usually calls groups together and does the scheduling, but that's a pretty huge issue that might not. And then you have hunting season.
So it
we're-
might take until
We're off
December
during-
1st
We're
anyway.
off during that hunting season week. Anyway, so
So do you feel December 1st would meet the needs of all the basketball?
What do you mean by we are offering December? Because it says, because the last one was no outside groups until November 31st. or
November 30th through November 30th, and so this was starting your next day.
So that hunting week is,
right, you can't, but nobody be in the gym that week anyway, is what I'm saying.
So you're saying stick with December 1st is what you're saying,
Well,
Mike?
It
As far as
it wouldn't be that
scheduling?
many dates really. What's today, the 9th?
Today's the 9th, so
Yeah.
if you
20
wanted to make
days.
the
You
You could maybe
motion,
get them in for 1 week, you get teams in, but.
and I don't know what's there. I guess I'm just wondering if there was something special about the first and
No,
and it
that
was
was
just
the why.
because we went through
That was
November
the why.
30th.
so we're communicating with our public.
Right.
Last one you approved was through the November 30th.
Okay. Are there any other questions or comments regarding
This one.
this one?
Are we talking about the approval of just this topic?
Yes, just this topic, just the non-school group. Okay,
In this topic, in the paragraph below the title, it talks about the recommendation to continue teaching 4 days a week at the middle school and in the high school 5 days a week. It seems like they're two separate items. Am I misreading that?
you are not. That's a separate item. We're only talking about this first one under this agenda item as two items. So this would be part A.
Got it. Okay, I just want to make sure that I understood that. Okay, so there's going to be 2 votes on part A.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Could we have a motion just on this one alone, and then we go into the second part, which is the regular school?
All right. Do we have a motion?
What is the motion again?
We don't
To
have one
approve
yet.
the proposal that you have before you in your board packet.
Mhm.
Not the addition that Mr. Granlund has given you a heads up on, not that one. That's it, just that.
I will make a motion to approve the non-school group facility usage plan.
And we would keep the date as December 1st.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to create, I mean, I know it's a scheduling nightmare, so I wouldn't want to create a headache for Mr. Smith and Mrs. Pooler, so.
Sounds like the groups would have a little time then to get this
They-
all
they know
worked
now
out
they
and
have
put-
3
and
weeks to
their
get something
schedules
accomplished,
and
I
get their
think.
teams together and all of that.
So, yeah.
Okay. Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the non-school group facility usage beginning December 1st to allow non-school groups to come in and use our facilities under the restrictions printed here.
Protocols,
Yeah,
correct?
the protocol, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving on to the next part of this.
The recommendations are to continue teaching 4 days per week at the middle school and the high school, and 5 days per week at the elementary level. I would like to call your attention to the numbers that I have before you. Mr. Johnson,
Yes,
I will read these aloud to you. Do you have a pen and a paper in front of you?
I do. Thank you.
All right. This is absenteeism for today only. COVID-related, either tested positive and/or quarantine. Iron River, staff 1, and then students out due to COVID or quarantine 6. That's a total of 9%. Northwestern Elementary, staff 9, students 98. That's a total of 22.6%. Northwestern Middle School, staff 9, students 46. That's 18.7%. Northwestern High School, staff 7, students 42. That's 15%. Total staff, 26, but 4 are shared staff, so technically it's 22 staff, and the total for students, 192. The authority I need from the board is permission that if I need to shut down, whether it's to go totally online or, as the Nelsons mentioned, hybrid model. The hybrid model does not help us for staffing. We have said it over and over. COVID's not going to shut us down. The lack of substitutes is. And that's why the plan that you approved by allowing us to hire more subs saved us today. We had 20 subs needed, and then there were 2 more during the day. If it gets to the point where we cannot staff, I need to have the authority from you that I'm not calling a special board meeting. I'm just doing what we have to do for safety if we need to shut it down for 2 weeks. I don't know how other districts have done it. Some districts have shut down for 2 weeks, they come back, then they've shut down again for another 2 weeks and back. I don't know if they're calling special board meetings, but I'm telling you, things are happening so fast. We had an admin team meeting, and between the start of the admin team meeting and the end of the admin team meeting, 2 more staff out, another 6 students out. I need to have a motion to that effect so that I know that I'm covered, that I don't need to quick call you all together. I need to operate for safety and the success of the district. The reason the hybrid model doesn't necessarily work is I need the same number of staff to man a hybrid model as I need to have the students here 4 days a week. I still have to have my staff here. The good part about a hybrid model is, yes, we have less students here for any contact, but what we're finding is in many cases, it's staff who come in from close contacts from other places, and that's how we're having some issues. So 2 issues here. 1, are we allowed to stay open as long as we can? That would be what our goal is. And number 2, do I have permission if it's truly gotten to the point, you see the numbers, and that we had 10 subs before. What you did of increasing it to 150 and allowing us to, we trained 2 more and we got 2 more, the contracted in, we're using them. We're using them.
I was wondering how you had subs for all of these
Yes,
people.
Mr. Johnson, I'm going to put my microphone thing, go ahead and talk.
May I, have you thought about actually just closing down for 30 days and going strictly online? Because I know in my in my sphere of life, I know at least 10 people that have tested positive. I think that's a lot. And the numbers that you just shared tell me that's a lot of people. And I don't think having subs there is going to make COVID go away. But I think that if we, shut it down like many other schools have done, we may be able to slow that disease down.
They don't shut down for 30 days. They shut down for 2 weeks because that's the gestation period and the quarantine period, because there's a lot of truth to the whole mental health issue of the student isolation. Student online learning is nowhere near as good as face-to-face with a teacher. So 2 weeks, I've heard of some districts they started out online and they just never opened up. I don't ever want to do that. That's never been our goal. But we've even talked about different plans where one whole grade level would go out, but then we'd use the subs, 3 of the 4 teachers, for subbing in other areas of ways to fill in to be able to still stay open for the other 6 grades at an elementary school. We've talked about shutting one building down and then having just that building go online. And that might free up a couple staff members, such as paras, that can come into a different classroom and keep that teacher is teaching online, and then the para is just there for classroom management. All of those have all been conversations, but the goal is to try to stay open, period, if we can, if we can.
Has there been any talk, and I'm just spitballing here, I don't have, obviously nobody has the perfect answer. Has there been any talk about maybe doing kind of maybe an extra day or 2 at home and then still doing school? Not the cohort where they exchange, because that's getting tough now with everyone in sports, because they're still all around each other now. But you know how we do the Wednesday at home? Has there been any talk about maybe doing 3 days on, 2 days off, just to decrease?
But that is your cohort model, is the 3 days.
Well, your cohort though is one group goes Monday, Tuesday, one group goes Thursday, Friday.
Correct.
I know that created a lot of trouble for the busing.
It did,
What
but
I'm-
they figured it out. They figured
Right.
it out.
What I'm, it just requires more drivers than I think what we have, but
We didn't hire any new drivers in order to do the cohort model compared to the other.
okay. I was just wondering if you gave any thought to your whole school still comes, but you just have an additional day at home. I know that wouldn't cure if you have
It
teachers
doesn't.
gone.
14
It just
days is
would.
the big,
it's you need that 2 weeks. Okay.
Yep.
All right. I'm
Yep.
just throwing different things
right,
out.
and I appreciate
Okay.
that. The big key is we will have students coming in and out. We've had students coming in and out. It's the staff. If you do not have the staff, you can't stay open. And the other thing is that if we can't stay open, we can't have sports. That's another killer for these kids. Just as, again, the Nelsons communicated, that's why some of these kids are coming. That's why they're engaged. That's why they care. So our goal to stay open has to do with the whole sports and the activities too, because sometimes that's the only reason kids want to get their studies done, and is because that's what's so important to them.
It's motivation.
It is motivation.
Could you give us a few examples of, like, maybe you haven't figured it out yet, but do you have an idea of what would some of the circumstances be that would make you want to close one of the schools or all of the schools? Like, what would that have to look like?
We almost got there yesterday. We did. We had admin team group texts, and we had charts, and I'm going on record, Jenny Keller is a miracle worker. She is our person who is the sub-caller. We have principals who go above and beyond as well. Certainly, we've praised our teachers over and over and our support staff. But yesterday, putting it together and being able to get things staffed, that's why I'm asking also for permission. I thought I was there yesterday. I thought potentially we may not be able to open past today. I would have opened today and then shut tomorrow, enough time for kids to get their computers, get their books, et cetera, and been shut. But she was able to 5 days a week chart it out. Here's all the people, the 20 out. Here's how we're covering it. Then the principals get in, and then they've figured out how to be able to do some extra, filling in with other staff members. And I actually slept last night because by about 7 o'clock, she had it figured out, and it was out to everyone that we could stay open. That's about how it's going right now, is we have to have learning happening to the best of our ability. It's never great if your teacher isn't there, but we have 2 teachers right now that I can think of where they're teaching from home. They are online, and then we just have a sub in there just for the classroom management, but the teachers are teaching from home. Then they don't have to take their FFCRA. They don't need to be deducted any sick leave. They're teaching.
Is there any kind of like magic number as to how many staff are out or how many classrooms are quarantined? Do you have any kind of criteria that you look at for closure?
It all goes back to staffing. It all goes back to, can we figure it out? I've shared with you one of the thoughts is, like, let's say, for example, a grade school had to quarantine just because they were not sitting 6 feet apart. They just weren't. And so one class goes out. We would have that teacher teach all the rest of the 4th grade or whatever grade it is online. They're all in the same Google Classroom. They're all in it. They all have access to it. Then other 3 teachers would be able to go and sub elsewhere. Haven't had to do it. Don't want to do it. But could we, in order to keep the whole rest of that school open, potentially? Yeah, we could, potentially. So those are the types of things that we have to do. The more subs we get, great. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And because of what the board did with that approval, that was a huge plus. We would have already been there. We would have already had to do some type of a closure without that, because we were at only 10. And yet today we needed 20.
So what you're asking tonight is for us to give you permission to do what you need to do if we don't have the staff to cover our
That is
buildings.
correct.
And you've mentioned,
In addition to what you did so there's really 3 parts to this full approval thing, right?
Yeah.
what are the 3 parts?
Well, I think Mr. Johnson is talking about, 1 is the permission. 2 is the plan for trying to stay open as long as possible. And if need be, if we shut one school down, we keep the others open. I mean, all of those are all part of the mix.
And then the continue as we're going with the 4 days.
Right, to continue with 4 days a week, grades 6 through 12, and then 5 days a week at the elementary.
Yep.
Yep. That's a separate, well, it's really part of all within this whole conversation.
So again, let me summarize and see if I have it right here. Our recommendation is to continue as we are.
Yep.
As long as we can. Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully
Yes,
throughout this.
that's correct. Continue as we are is an easy way of putting it.
But also be able to give you some leeway.
To shut it down without calling a whole special board meeting in order to shut it.
Whether it be district-wide
Or-
or a school or a grade
Right.
level
Yep.
or,
Correct.
so you have some options.
Some options.
All right.
So I have a comment.
Absolutely. And then Mr. Granlund is right after you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, that you need to have the authority to make that call. I would vote yes on that. But I will still vote no if it's all tied together, because I still don't think, with this 4 days and a 5 days thing, you guys, what my discussion is going to be about. But I mean, I don't feel that we've adequately provided relief for the elementary teachers. And we were told that, we were going to have the 3 people that would help online. And I think and I'm not even positive that would have worked. But right now we're barely up to 2. And I have never heard that it was working from anybody yet. Um, and again, I may be wrong, you know, and there's going to be some disagreement, but a couple of months ago, I asked if we could have 3 or 4 teachers come to us to the board and tell us that this is working, and I haven't seen them. So in my mind, to my satisfaction, we haven't addressed the whole issue with the teachers in the elementary part. So for that reason, I'm going to vote no, although it's not no on the Dr. Crony having authority. I would like to vote yes on that part, but I can't vote yes on this other part.
Maybe we separate those two.
We can
Yeah.
have separate motions,
We
that's
just
fine.
have separate motions on that. Sure.
Right.
Okay.
Yep, Mr.
Mr. Granlund?
I question the staff, is that positive test or quarantine? It is not
Correct.
positive. Okay, it's
That's
both.
correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And Mr. Landwehr, are you one?
Yeah, I'm greasy wheel tonight, I think, but squeaky wheel needs. So I have a couple things. Are you so asking to have the authority to close? Do you have any idea as to? I mean, as an example, the city of Hermantown, the Hermantown School District up just outside of Duluth, is closing on Monday. So apparently Monday is the okay day to do that. You know, you're still going to go the rest of this week. What would your thoughts be on that? I know you just said a moment ago you would get through today, but you would end up closing tomorrow, as an example. Would you do something that quick? Is that what you're initially thinking? I mean, I know we're not in that position yet, but is that what you would think?
I would like to give the parents as much time preparation as I can, just because they
It's
need
tough,
it.
right.
And they need to make their plans and their arrangements. So I would never do something where, like on Sunday night, when I was like, okay,
Right.
do we have this covered? Because we've been working, on it. I would not have closed for Monday on a Sunday night. I would not do that.
Okay.
I would not do that. But getting more than one day notice, I can't guarantee that.
Okay, no,
I-
I can understand that.
Yep.
So my next thing is the whole 2-week thing. I struggle with it a little bit, and because I've got 8 people in my home, I've got 6 kids, 2 adults, and if, as an example, if I were to come down with it, essentially, not with everybody, but for a lot of people, this seems to be lasting that 10 to 14 day neighborhood before they seem to be symptom free. I know there are lots that are going longer than that, and I know a lot that are sooner than that. But it's my understanding that if I were to come down with it on day 1, on day 10 I'm symptom free. The other 7 people in my home need to quarantine for 14 days. So if they quarantine for that 14 days, but day 6 into it, another one gets it.
Yep.
And for 10 days, I mean, I have the potential in my home to go months before anybody's able to supposedly see the light of day. My concern is if we say we're going to close for 2 weeks, I don't think that's necessarily relevant. I don't think it needs to be, because that's what's happening from that time frame going forward, you know what I mean? And that's just on a greater scale. So if staffing is an issue, I completely understand, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable saying, and I know you haven't said this, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable saying we're going to close for more than a week at a time. I also don't think I want to necessarily say that you've got the okay to shut the entire district down. I'm more than comfortable going school by school for no more than a week at a time without coming back to the board, because I think we all understand that we are in a position during this crisis that we're all going through to have to end up maybe having special board meetings and do special things. Giving you the okay to shut it down and do that, completely 100% on board with. I don't necessarily think we need to do more than 1 week at a time without having us all in
Together.
agreement with it. And I don't think I'm comfortable saying we're going to shut the whole thing down without something special. I think we get the okay to shut a school down at a time if we need to, for no more than a week at a time, without consent or a voting or a special board
Right,
meeting.
right.
Would be my 2
But see, what's nice about that, and I'm 100% comfortable with that, it allows me to even do the posting. When it was Sunday, I
Right.
couldn't even do a posting to make it a legal meeting in order to even have a special board meeting. We would have, you could do it a two hour, so we could have maybe done something, a 2 hour kind of a thing.
Right.
And then to get everybody together. But I am fine if it's only a week at a time. I've never heard of another district going a week at a time, ever. It's always been 2 weeks because of the data of quarantine. That's the why, and that's where I was coming from.
Right. No, and I understand that, but I don't necessarily think that, I mean, we have, 192 currently. I mean, what does that come out to? About 18% of the district is currently out right now. Not necessarily that they have a positive case, but because it's a combination of both.
Close contact.
So a week at a time, that 192 doesn't necessarily mean that it's 192 on day one. That's 192 within that 14-day period of being out of the school.
Well, that's today. That's one
No,
day.
no, I mean, but some of those 192 may have already been gone a week.
Oh, right.
Or 8
okay.
days or something is what
Gotcha.
I'm saying.
Gotcha.
So that number is going to fluctuate every
It
single
does,
day
it does,
because
yeah.
you're going to have people
Yeah,
in and out.
yeah.
So, which is why I say a week, because,
Got it.
and I'm not saying that we wouldn't be able to get together and say, you know what, we need to extend this out. But I'm saying is I don't want necessarily to say we're shutting down for 2 weeks and that's what it is, only because I'm such a proponent of having these kids in school
Right.
as much as possible.
Got it. But
So-
that, what I like about the week is the freedom to call a meeting and still keep people safe and that they are shut down.
So that would be, I'd make the motion if nobody else has anything that they wanted to say.
But did you also say not the whole district, just a school?
A single school at a time, yep.
Okay.
Because, right now, looking at this, we have, the elementary school, NES is the one that's, I guess, in my opinion, that's the one that's got the highest percentage
Correct.
out and the most students and staff out. Well, most students out. You've got staff equal at the middle school. But I think, I like I said, I want to do everything we can, and I know you feel the same way, to keep the kids in school and do this for people. So I want them here, whatever we need to do in order to do that. So I don't necessarily want to shut the whole thing down. I don't want to shut the whole thing down at all. If we got to go one at a time or look at it on a case by case basis, that's what I'm okay with. So
Let me clarify to make sure I have this right. So you're making a motion.
well, I haven't yet. I just wanted to make sure
Oh,
everybody was
okay,
okay.
Well,
I would, but you can clarify.
Which wants to go first?
because if I have the understanding correct, I was going to second it. So
Oh.
are you interested in making a
Oh,
motion?
sure.
So-
And do we want to do two separate for Brian?
Yes, we're doing two separate for Bryce.
So let me make sure I understand your motion. So your motion would be to give Dr. Crony the authority to shut down one school at a time for 1 week at a time until the board can have a special board meeting.
Correct.
That's
I will second that.
okay. Yeah.
Do I have to actually, I should probably actually make the motion,
Yeah,
right?
Why don't you make the motion?
Or she did it, and I'll second? How's that?
Why don't you go ahead and make the motion?
Okay. So I will make a motion to give Dr. Crony the authority to shut no more than one school down at a time for no more than 1 week at a time without a special board meeting being called.
Right. And by 1 week, that's 5 days, because it could start on a Wednesday and go through a
Yeah,
Wednesday.
5 school
Five
days.
school, five. Okay, if we need a second? Right, but we have to have a motion and a second before you discuss, so now go ahead, Mr. Johnson.
No.
No, that's not okay with everyone, the way I would understand that motion. It's one school.
Well, it would be my understanding that if we were to do that, we would have enough staff to staff the other schools. That's right now, that's the issue
The staff-
that would trigger having to shut a school down is a staffing issue. So it sounds like I would think, I mean, who knows what could happen? Something could blow up and it really turns into something more than it has. But from a staffing issue, I think that solves the staffing issue, or it helps. I mean, it isn't
would help.
great.
It helps, it doesn't solve.
Right? No, I don't. I should refrain from using that
And
word.
in the
Sorry.
meantime, you'd be calling us
You
to gather
bet.
that.
In order to then schedule a board meeting, special board meeting, and have enough time to post it. Okay, so Mr. Johnson had a question.
He-
Well, like, is it my turn now?
It is.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that we understand that when we say one school at a time, something happens on the second day, you could be closing out all three.
I don't think the motion is one school at a time. Well, maybe that is what you said, but basically you're saying just one
Just
school.
one school. Yeah.
Well, I would think though, if it was 2 different days, that's not at the same time either. So like my understanding of the motion would just be that we're only taking this one school at a time. So for example, let's say tomorrow you have to shut down NES and the next day you decide that you have to shut down the middle school. Those would be 2 separate decisions made on 2 separate days.
That's true.
I
but
don't think
the way
that
I would take
qualifies.
that is that I would think I would not be allowed to shut that second school down until I had a special board meeting. That's how I was hearing the motion.
Me- Same with me.
I also don't think that you're going to need to, because I think staffing
Is
is,
the issue.
is going to be, there's going to be a bridge there, I believe. And unless I'm incorrect in thinking that, but based on what conversations that we've had in previous board meetings and privately is, that can be a bridge. If a school were to be closed, we can utilize that staff from that school to bridge other schools. I mean, I know it's not ideal. I know it wouldn't be, none of this is ideal, but I believe that could happen to end up keeping students in. Now, I don't know what that does for the education of those kids that are in the school that's closed, but,
They'd be online. They have to
They're
be
not
online.
closed, they're online.
Right.
so that, I mean, that may hurt a little bit of from a staffing issue, but if we're using subs at the elementary school and the elementary school gets closed, those subs can now transfer to the
somewhere
other
else.
schools. So I mean, I understand what Brian's saying. I don't think it necessarily could go that way, but I think you do need to have that authority to be able to say, if it is Monday and then all of a sudden, like you said today, you had six between students and staff, was it today during your
Today,
beginning?
during admin team,
During an admin team.
two more staff, 6 more students, and
So between that, a couple of hours, you had that, and like you said, it changes really quickly. So I'm not necessarily opposed to being able to say, if it is a Monday and you have to say on Tuesday NES is closed, and then on Tuesday the high school has to be closed, you're still working the process to get us all in to make that whatever we
I
need
still
to do.
try to get that special board meeting as fast as I can.
Right.
Yep,
But again, no more than a week at a time, or 5 days
right.
at any given time.
So are we clear or are we not clear? I'm reading it that if I close one school at a time, I'm hearing from you, I'd be all right to close a second school the next day, but I need to be calling the board to set up a special board meeting if need be. But at first, I was reading it that one school, 5 days, anything more than that, I need to be calling a special board meeting before I'd have the authority to allow a second school to be shut down.
No, that's not.
That's not what you're thinking?
No.
Okay,
I thought, the way I understood the motion originally was just basically saying, don't shut the whole district down without consulting
Got
us.
it.
That was my take.
okay.
I think that once you make the decision that we have to close a school or we have to move that school to virtual, you immediately would get the board involved.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Does that
That-
sound
that's,
right?
I would agree with that.
And in the
Yep.
meantime,
I'll
as
do what I have to do to,
if it
keep
c-
staff-
turns out the second day you have to do more, you're still bringing us in
got it.
to be a part of what
The
happens
conversation.
next.
Because the key is students too, that we have to look at those student numbers and close contacts. We have to look at all of that as we have been. So, but is the biggest issue staffing? Yes.
For sure, right
Yes.
now.
So,
anyway.
Mr. Johnson, to answer your question, yes, it potentially could be one school one day, another school the next day, but even after that one day, I'm going to be contacting you, or Peggy will, and we'll be setting up a date for a special board meeting.
Right, okay.
Okay.
All right, we have the motion and the second. We've had our discussion. Does everyone know the motion, or do we have to repeat it? I think we know it, do we? I'm
Peggy?
afraid to try to repeat it.
Peggy, do you have a microphone? Okay. She's good.
Good.
Perfect.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Now, as to the other part of this, which we said we would split the motion, this would be to continue teaching 4 days per week at the middle school and high school and 5 days per week at the elementary level.
That's correct. And Mr. Granlund got
I
it.
so move.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the recommendations to continue the schedule we're on right now, as I just said. All in favor, say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. We talked about for the elementary students, we really have to consider. I'm gonna vote no. I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna vote no. You know I'm gonna vote no because we still have teachers teaching 5 days a week and doing online. And I don't think that we have adequately supported them with the staff because we just got the second person. One person already quit because the load is too heavy. And you know, for other people too. So, that is why I'll be voting no on this.
All right.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? So that's two.
Peggy, did you get both?
Motion carries. Okay, now I have to find my agenda, sorry. All right. Item C, under approval items, is an additional technology education teacher for the 2021-22 school year. Oh, sorry, I skipped over B, yes.
That's a biggie.
And that's a big one. Plan for online instruction for K through 5th grade for the 2021-22 school year. Do you want
Ready?
to talk about that?
All right.
Yes, please.
We have a plan for providing online instruction for grades 4K through 5th grades for 21-22. Some IRES parents have advocated for the last 5 years that they want full-time teachers for their children, even though the student numbers range between 9 and 12 per classroom, and that school has won state and national awards. This year, we do have 15 in the 3rd grade classroom, but all other class sizes are less. Mr. Larrabee's thought was to combine the IRES parents' request for full-time teachers with the request of the NES teachers to be lifted from online teaching completely. We would post and hire only full-time teachers for grades K through 5, and the 4K teacher for IRES will be 2 days a week and also be the online teacher if we end up having any 4K children online too. Because the numbers in the classroom are so low at IRES, the hope is that the teacher will have more time to answer parents' students' questions for the online learners. There will be live streaming for lessons. Recording of content lessons will need to happen for those families that have poor internet or not enough bandwidth or technology issues. The students who are online will probably be 1 day behind the other learners if they are relying on the recordings because the IRES teacher will need to upload videos during prep time or at the end of the day for the students to view either that night or the next day. If the students are part of the live streaming, then they will be exactly right with the class. We will need parents to choose 1 quarter at a time for being online or coming back to their assigned class, which may be IRES or it may be NES. If they were an online student who was in the NES boundary, they would go back to the NES teacher if they're choosing to come back in person. See the staffing projections for NES and class sizes in your packet that show we will be down 2 classroom teachers at NES due to attrition. We can use those monies to fund the additional cost of salary and health insurance for the full-time IRES teaching positions.
Dr. Coney, may I add something?
Sure.
Where it says, I like this plan generally speaking, and where it says that the online teaching, the teachers will be lifted from the online teaching completely. Could you add one in, part in there that says that the online teachers will be providing the content also? We're not, if it says completely, that means we're not relying on these other teachers to provide the content.
That's correct. That's what completely means.
Okay.
Completely. They don't have anything to do. It's completely.
Okay. If that's
That's exactly what was said, and that's exactly what was meant.
okay, thank you.
I got a question.
Yep.
What would happen if the class at NES then is quarantined? Would you be completely then?
That's a great question, because if the whole class were quarantined, that online teacher is not going to be their teacher. It would be their own teacher. So they would have access to a Google Classroom, but only for quarantining, and it's only their kids, and they would be, quarantined themselves.
They would be virtually teaching
They'd
their
be
own
virtually
class.
Right. So
Correct,
it
the
wouldn't
whole
be
class.
completely then.
Well, good point. Okay, then we
Oh.
should write in there, except if the whole class is quarantined.
Mhm.
Okay,
Which is happening right now.
which is happening right now.
Yeah.
Except
Mhm.
if the whole class is quarantined. Thank you.
So the benefit for Iron River teachers would be they would no longer basically have split grades in the afternoon.
Nope, they would not.
So that's a big, that's a
And a
big relief.
$24,000 health insurance policy if they have a family.
Mhm. And plus, they could have full-time teachers there. that
Correct,
Are
they'd have-
more likely to stay.
Stay, correct.
Okay.
Okay, I have a
Ms.
question.
Tsai?
Yeah, because I believed when August came along, we were talking about live streaming. And that's how the classroom teachers were going to be doing it with their students in their classroom. How are we more prepared to do that now? Are we more prepared to do that now? Because I know for sure it's not happening with all of our students who are out that are not getting live streaming. So when you say live streaming, are we setting up the projectors so that they're going to be participating with that class the whole time?
That's the goal. And
That's the
having
goal.
this much time
Right.
between now and then
Because
helps us meet
yeah.
that goal.
Because I see that we're getting projectors set up now, because I know it's not happening right now. So there again, when is this going to be done, or we don't know?
Do we need
By
additional
next year?
equipment?
We may need additional equipment, but without the board's motion, we don't even start with purchasing anything.
Well,
Without-
it's not happening right now. I do know that for sure.
Okay. There's
There is no live streaming. The only live streaming I see is in the afternoon with my grandson. He is getting Miss Janigo and has face-to-face. That's the only time that he's ever face-to-face. Everything is pre-recorded. And so, when this whole plan started, I thought it was live stream with the teacher. That's why I'm voting no, because it's not live streaming
Okay.
with the teacher as stated before.
Any other?
I think the plan itself, notwithstanding the, making it work, is brilliant. I think it solves, it helps Iron River people with a full-time teacher, and it relieves the NES teachers. And really, when you think of NES, you've got 18 teachers
At
that are
least.
doing this. You'd be down to 5. You could concentrate more on
Correct.
those 5 over in Iron River.
You bet, Frank. Okay.
So, brilliant idea.
But Ms. Sari makes a good point that we need to be equipped to do it well.
Right. The hardest part is internet for families. And Gail, you know full well,
And there's,
It's-
there is internet, but it's.
it's not quality.
No, it's not being live streamed, even if it is. They live right in Cutler.
Okay, so then,
It's not happening.
I can tell you part of
okay, go ahead, Mr. Johnson, speak up. And that was never the goal in the beginning. It was not to have them do it at night time and on the weekend. The goal was to do live streaming. Where that is, they're not able to.
And I bet you if you ask every one of those teachers, if they're not putting in their, doing some of that stuff on their own time, I will bet 99% of them are doing lots of things on their own time, lots of them.
Yes, but our teachers have been doing lots on their own time, and other
However.
staff members, that is not uncommon. But I agree with you. The question goes back to why there's not asynchronous learning going on, why they are not doing that. Mr. Larrabee, would you be able to speak to that? I hope you'll be able to hear him.
Thank you for asking the question.
Go ahead and put your mask down so at least we can try to hear you.
Trying to be nice to Mr. Nelson. Mr.
And
Nelson.
get close.
So you hit the nail on the head. This is an unusual year, and it's asked our staff to do unusual things. And because everybody is doing everything they can to meet everybody's needs, there are breaking points. And our teachers are there, and we know that they are doing everything that they can. So I am not pushing the issue with our staff if they do not have the ability to live stream and answer questions at that immediate minute. Some of them are here tonight. If they need to do that on their prep time and prepare it in order to get it to families, that is the best that we can do right now. And I applaud our staff for doing that. And it is my place to lead them. And right now, they are doing everything that they can, and I'm leading in that direction to do what they can to meet the needs of every family in our classrooms and outside of our classrooms. And that's the best that we can do.
Did you hear that?
No.
No. He said our staff is doing the best that they can to the best of their ability right now.
I agree with
Dr. Cronin, if I can also add, there
Yes.
are people that are more comfortable with a live streaming platform, and it is happening. I've talked to many parents around the district that are happy with that. But there are also people that this is a new journey for them using technology and these platforms. And we have to be patient in their learning and support them in their learning. And if it is not perfect, that's because this is a pandemic and we are cast into it with here, go forth and prosper, figure it out. Not here's training for 6 months or a year or 2 years or 4 years. Instead, we are cast into this and we have to be patient with people and support them, not criticize them.
What he said is that, again, we have to be patient and support our staff, not criticize them. That-
That's
Okay.
So let me ask, in the absence of live streaming, instead they record a lesson and then
Upload it.
upload it to the
Into the
internet?
classroom.
Is that how it works?
Yes, so two separations. So those that have been able to meet with Ms. Janigo and with Mr. Weeda now, those recordings or sometimes live streaming, those are still prepared by our classroom teachers. And then those additional staff take it over. They work with the families. That is in addition. But for our classes that have not been able to get that assistance, they are doing everything they can to engage their kids, whether it be through live streaming or on their prep, setting up meetings with kids or groups of kids. They're doing everything they can to connect with every kid. And it's pretty remarkable with, I think there's 509 kids at NES right now. Almost every one of those kids online is making a presence. Almost everyone. That's
Almost
pretty-
everyone is what?
Making a presence. They're
Is
staying
it's
connected.
showing up. Okay, making present.
Almost all.
Okay.
This is, though, what we're looking at here is putting a plan together for next school year.
That is correct.
So we have 10 months
Yes.
to figure this out properly, purchase the correct equipment, and make sure that this is smoother than, I mean, I don't think anybody would disagree that in March, it was a mess when we shut down fourth quarter of last year. that when we started this year, it's considerably better than it was last year. And I think next year we have we're tasked with making it even better than it has been this year. So I would hope that a lot of the Iron River families that have expressed concern over the last number of years understand that, we're listening. And I hope that they do indeed have time to take care of the online learning next year and ease that burden off of the NES teachers. But looking at it for next year, I'm hopeful that we're able to make it work like the plan here is, even better than we have this year. So
We're also hoping that there's even less who want to be online next year than are this year.
yeah, hopefully this whole thing eases up a little bit.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Mrs. Lynn, can I also add one other note? Obviously, the creation of this plan has taken some time. It's taken some thought, some collaboration with our admin team, but it also has involved a couple of staff members at Iron River that have had this conversation with Dr. Croney and myself, and they feel that this is a doable process. And we're talking about staff that have been asked for the last few years to combine classes in the afternoon, teach multiple content to multiple grade levels. So in the current practice, they've had some barriers, but they view this as being a viable option to move forward.
Because it's only one grade level, not having to do 2 in the afternoon as they're currently
That's
doing at Iron River.
Which numbers wise are still comparable. If we combine those classes in the afternoon like we have for the last few years, they're fairly large classes.
It's so hard to understand that last sentence you did.
Just sharing that when you combine classes, they become fairly large classes at Iron River when we take.
Right,
second
they've
grade.
been like 28 in an afternoon. Yes. Yep. Okay.
Okay, is there any other questions? Are there any other questions or more discussion about this plan for the next school?
For next year, we need an approval, right?
All right, I don't think we have a motion yet, do we?
Not yet.
Okay.
you had added something.
I
though,
did.
thought, too.
I added in, after the word completely, except if the whole class is quarantined. Because then they would be the teacher. The NES teachers would teach their whole class online during that 14-day quarantine.
Yeah.
So this plan that we've discussed where the Iron River teachers are going to do that, that's not going to take effect until fall of
Next year,
2021?
next fall, correct.
Okay, not winter, not this
No,
one.
Not
no,
now.
no, we've already contracted with those teachers for,
Gotcha, okay, so that's to take effect in the fall.
okay,
All
after
right.
she finishes. Okay. Was that it, Dana?
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Johnson? For their own class for the 14 days, but they're home. Just their own class.
I would entertain a motion. I think we could just make it to approve the plan for online instruction for K to fifth grade as presented.
Correct, because we've got it written in.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve a plan for online instruction for K through fifth grade for the 2021-22 school year. Any other questions?
I just concerned that you're making guarantee completely thing, things could change, who knows?
Okay, so you don't want me to say completely? Because I'm not, right now, we're asking each NES teacher to record one content area. One does math, one does ELA, one does science, social studies, one does, spelling, whatever. It's every grade level is different, but they do one. They do one. So that plan would not be happening for them for next year.
You would not have to do that. That requirement wouldn't be there.
Right. I
I
hear you.
understand, I'm just saying that
You're fearful of me saying completely.
any guarantees and warranties in this pandemonia is difficult to,
I hear you, but the whole goal is, to lift it completely. And this is where we are today.
awesome.
And I give credit to Mr. Larrabee for the plan and the germination, and he and I had good conversations and melded it together when we were ready to bring it to you this month. We weren't ready last month. It was already germinating last month. But
I gave him a brilliant.
yep, he gets a brilliant, yep.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Now we'll move on to an
Yeah.
additional technology education teacher for the 2021-22 school year.
All right. For years, we have had more student requests for technology education classes than teacher time. Both Mr. Letko and now Mr. Charlier have had to teach overload status, meaning they've taught all 4 blocks of the day and have no prep. We'd like to meet students' requests for technology education courses. We're excited to propose adding an additional full-time technology education teacher at our curriculum committee meeting in December, of which you're still the chair, right? Okay. So that's 4:30 at the December, okay? Mr. Charlier will be proposing an engineering pathway. It'll start with an intro to engineering and design course because this is an area he has not been able to offer due to the lack of second full-time teacher. Our existing computer-aided drafting design CAD course will serve as the intermediate class, and then mechatronics engineering is a capstone for that pathway. This course will be individualized, but again encompass the full engineering pathway. One additional interest is home and auto. Some of our female students specifically expressed interest in this. Mr. Charlier said that course will fill up immediately. If the board approves this additional teacher, then the interest in mechatronics and home and auto can be met too. Another thought is the cabin construction could go twice as fast a few years from now if more students were able to get the prerequisite courses to be ready for the building construction class, but then a second group of students would be able to assist and not have to work so long into the winter months. Other construction projects may be able to occur too. All right.
That we do that.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion, questions?
The treasurer is asking, do we have the funds for this, and, or will another area suffer
We
from it?
did talk through that our staffing at the middle school will probably be down 1 teacher, and that funding would then transfer to this. We know that tech ed teachers are pretty pricey, so that would have to be the difference between whatever the teacher is that is lowest on the totem pole for seniority, and that the difference cost would have to be new monies. And the second part to your question was, say it again.
Or did we
Oh,
have the
other
money,
teachers.
or is this
We,
another teacher?
Mr. Carlson, I talked with Mr. Carlson at length, and he said their numbers are so healthy in all of the other, I guess you could say, elective courses in the CTE department, that he feels very comfortable that we would not be infringing or going down to less than full-time for those other courses. We may not have anyone in study hall, which is a good thing.
Well, I for one am thrilled that we're going into this engineering path.
Yes.
Because I know we've had a lot of our students in the past few years go into engineering, and they've ended up with real successful careers, and I think it's great.
Do we
It's
have,
an excellent way to go. Go ahead.
do we have, I see Mr. Charlier back there in the corner. I
Oh.
believe that's him with a mask on.
Where is he?
Is this going to be done in the same classrooms that you're currently in?
Yes,
So,
four.
so instead of you teaching in I mean, when you're teaching, one of those rooms is always empty, so this is gonna end up filling those rooms, is that correct?
5 rooms, you do have 5 rooms.
And then, are any of these classes going to, and I could be wrong here, but I know some of the classes that you currently teach allow credit at like WITC. Are any of these new classes going to be able to do any of that, or have you not even worked that far ahead? Recognize that as something. So, yeah, no,
Oh, the question was the articulated courses that we currently have for almost all of our other tech ed classes. Could we do that in the new mechatronics and engineering? And the answer to that is we haven't gotten that far yet. However, we certainly, with this much time ahead, can get those articulated agreements, so that could start right away.
and
Did I
would-
catch it correctly? I did, okay.
And I would just like to end up finishing by saying I am ecstatic for this.
Oh,
I
good.
know these kids are wanting this.
Good.
It's where I would have spent my high school career, so I'm glad to see that. I'm hopeful that we all say, giddy up, go here.
And hopefully we can find someone. I know they're in high demand,
They are.
so, but we've got a good program to come into. We
we-
should be very attractive to those
Hopefully.
people, I think. All right, we do have a motion and a second, correct? To approve hiring an additional tech ed teacher for next school year, 2021-22. All in, do we have to do a individual?
Nope,
vote on
nope,
this?
just,
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Moving on to Edgar policy revisions. Now, that was some riveting reading, I'll tell you. That was something, yes. So, can we discuss these together, or do they have to be approved separately?
they could
Together.
be together.
All right. I don't know how much discussion we
You don't
have
need
about
any
this.
discussion if you don't want it.
These are, I should read for the audience. Number 6114, cost principles, spending federal funds. Number 6325, procurement, federal grants and funds. A lot of interesting reading, yes. So I would entertain a motion.
Oh, you on?
Make a motion to approve?
We have a motion and a second to approve the Edgar policy revisions. Is there any discussion or questions? Then let's vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. All right, emergency management plans for the different schools, all of our schools. This is regarding adding the COVID protocol and plans.
And
into that.
updating names.
And updating names, yes. Are there any?
I have a question here. You know, we have the floor plan of the schools and stuff, and on the high school, it shows where the floor plan is of the fire extinguishers and the AEDs and that type of things. Is that going to be on the elementary school and the middle school as well? Because it's not listed on those. And there again, does staff know where all these devices are, is the other question. And does our local fire departments have a copy of these layouts of our schools, so that if there's any kind of question, where do you get these devices or whatever, I guess it would be good to know where the fire alarms, the fire extinguishers, and the AED devices are.
I'll defer to Paul, as he's our building and grounds person.
Actually, we do have maps that show that. I guess I'm surprised that we didn't have those in there, but we do have maps that show that. That I couldn't tell you. We'll check that out. Right, right.
So you'll take care of contacting fire department?
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll check that
thank you,
out.
Paul.
Any other comments or questions regarding our management plans? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve our emergency management plans throughout the district and at each of our schools. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, the same sign. That motion carries. All right, moving on to our administrative reports for tonight. Communications received.
Thank you from Tony Brightsman for his father's passing. Maple School District, thank you for all your kind words and memorial gift. All memorials are being donated to the Salvation Army of Superior. Thank you all, Tony. You have a WIAA bulletin for the October issue, a copy of the article in the Superior Telegram on substitute teachers. I thought Mary Pudlesny did a lovely job of representing us. As always, Maria Lockwood asked for permission, and I checked with Mary for her willingness, and again, she did a lovely job. I love the placement, was front page. A list of teachers recognized at the October 23rd football game organized by the football cheerleaders.
All right, thank you. We have the final aid certification and tax levy for the 2020-21 school year. Mr. Stafford.
Okay, 84% of our general fund revenues come off of one formula. That would be the revenue cap or revenue limit formula, whichever you want to call it. It didn't change very much from the annual meeting. It actually went up $7,073. There are several other things went up along with that. Open enrollment, our open enrollment income went up $39,020. Per pupil aid, $742 reduction, and personal property / computer aid was down $218. So the net change was an increase of $45,133. So the levy itself was actually up by, at least the Fund 10 amount was up by $12,668. And the total levy actually went down a little bit. So,
The total levy went down, yes.
and that's the 5th year in a row.
Right, 5th year in a row, our tax levy has gone down.
All right. Any questions for Mr. Stafford? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to school board election notice and schedule. Dr. Coney?
School board election notice and schedule is included with your packets. Mrs. Wicki and Mr. Landwehr, 3-year terms are expiring at the end of April 2021, and the election will be held on Tuesday, April 6th, 2021.
All right. Going on with curriculum committee.
Curriculum
meeting.
committee meeting has been scheduled before the board meeting on December 14th at 4:30 p.m. We will meet right here. The purpose of the meeting is to review and approve the new classes for NHS. Information will be provided in your December board packet, and the committee includes your chairperson, Ms. Sari, Mrs. Lind, and Mrs. Zwicky.
Right. We have a maintenance update in our packets. And going on from there, the 100th State Education Convention.
And a comment was made, how sad here it's their 100th and to have it virtual.
Yeah.
That part's just sad. 100th State Education Convention will be held virtually January 20th through the 22nd, 2021. Please let Peggy know whether or not to register you no later than December 1st, 2020. Registration is $240 per person. And Mrs. Zwicky is our WASB representative delegate.
All right. We have a list of donations. Are you?
I'd like to read
you'd
them
like
because
to
this
read
is
those?
important.
That's what I thought.
Yep. Krista DeGraaf, is it DeGraaf?
Yeah.
DeGraaf. Okay, thank you. Krista DeGraaf, a bag of school supplies. Elizabeth and John Fritchie, binders, folders, Kleenex, note paper, pens, pencils, colored pencils, Dixie cup, 5 pairs of new snow bibs, 2 pairs of new snow boots, and $500 to the Angel Fund. Vicky Good, an additional 100 hand-sewn student masks, total of 250. Hope Lutheran Church, TSDI, 30 hand-sewn student masks. Martha Powell, 60 hand-sewn masks for Mrs. Lindbergh's students. Lori and Todd Ronke, 6 big boxes of snacks for Ms. List's class. Anonymous, 10 cases of water bottles, 12 homemade student masks. We had a group of wonderful ladies re-sew adult-size masks to fit children. Terry Benoit, Rachel Dethridge, Nancy Lind, Sherry Tanula, Eve Zozel. Absolutely thrilled with all that extra help. Thank you to all of our donators.
Yes, thank you to all who do what they can,
Yeah.
especially now. All right, WASB correspondence and legislative report, Mrs. Zawicki. Okay, thank you. How about CISA 12, Ms. Sari? Kind of same old, same old. All right, we do have reports from all of our schools, principals at all of our schools, as well as our athletic activities director and our director of special ed, all in our packets. And they've waited a long time.
Wait.
Oh, sorry, what did I forget?
Oh, after the students, then we have staff recognition.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
So our student board representatives are here, waiting patiently.
Hey, everybody. So to start off, the Northwestern High School Art Club finished their Inktober contest that I brought up at the last meeting, and the winner's art is posted on the bulletin board in the lunchroom hallway. Art Club is also looking into virtual VAC for this year. The high school choir had their first concert of the year on October 30th, which was held virtually in the upper gym. Directed by Mr. Michael Goodlet, the choir performed a variety of different pieces, including Danny Boy, Someday, Shut Di Do, and a Latin piece titled Fauna Canzona. This year, the chamber choir is split into 2 different groups. Both 20-person choir groups have begun working on their Christmas pieces for the season. The high school band also performed for their first virtual concert on October 30th. Mr. Hintzman directed several different pieces, and they did a phenomenal job. Anyone interested in watching both of the recorded concerts can find those on YouTube or on the School District of Maple website. The Link leaders this year have been working diligently to help all the new students continue to feel welcomed. For their October activities, they played some get-to-know-you games, a fun October-themed Kahoot, and helped answer any new questions that the freshmen had. Link leaders are also working on coming up with some more activities for November. Battle of the Books had their first meeting last Thursday and are planning on having a meeting every 2 weeks. There are fewer books this year due to COVID, but they're still plan to have competitions at a later date. Last year, the group made honors at competition, and they're aiming for a higher score this year. The exact date of this year's competition is undecided at this point, but it's looking like it will be in either March or April. The DECA is excited to start their new school year together as a chapter. They have a lot of members returning and are excited to welcome some new faces to the DECA group. They just finished their fundraiser and will be holding club elections soon. The first round of competition is in January, and they are preparing for District Career Development Conference over the next couple of months. Students can compete in a wide variety of events as individuals and as teams in events that simulate real-life scenarios. For districts, students will be competing virtually in 1 role play and 1 test. They are also looking to expand their reach this year and have talked to local entrepreneurs and business owners about meeting virtually with our chapter to offer young people advice and guidance about the evolving business world. They are very excited to work with them. And if there are any local business leaders who would like to participate, please feel free to contact Mrs. Forsyth to set something up. FCCLA is currently doing some fall fundraisers as well. In replacement of their yearly Thanksgiving baskets, they're doing an advisory penny drive. All of the money will go to our local food shelf to help families in need. You might also notice the Thanksgiving turkey on the wall in the Commons. For every $20 that the FCCLA raises, the turkey gets a feather. The Drama Club moved on to the next round of their virtual competition. They've been continuing to work hard on their piece, and they're making recordings of their play. Student Council has been meeting about once a month to talk about what is going on in the school and how we can improve the lives of our peers while in the building. And if I'm being completely honest, morale has been a bit low, but we're working on fixing that. Our next meeting will be Thursday, where we discuss winter activities and toy drive ideas.
I would like to speak about the sports teams and the tech ed programs. Volleyball had a great season, becoming regional champs. They further made it to the sectional semifinals, but lost to St. Croix Falls. Cross country ended their season with the boys team winning conference for the 12th year in a row, moving their way through the state progression all the way to the state meet and placing 11th. This marked the end of the season for the team. Football and cheerleading, the varsity football team ended their regular season defeating Cameron 35-0 at home last Friday and have a 5-1 record. They would have had an extra game, but Barron was forced to forfeit the rest of their season due to COVID problems. They've now moved on to the WIAA playoffs as they have structured them this year. And they play St. Croix Central this Friday at St. Croix Central. And both the JV and C teams have finished their season. Cheer continues to work hard and support the boys. Girls golf ended their season placing first in the conference, moving on to regionals with Reese Smith moving on to solo sectionals. The program has had yet another impressive team academically, with 4 girls receiving academic all-state honors. Girls basketball is looking to have a promising season, and they start practice November 16th. And wrestling and boys basketball start November 23rd. And building construction continues to work on the house, hoping to finish the roofing this week. And Tiger Man is continuing to take orders, especially in time for the holiday season. You can contact them by sending a message on Facebook or sending an email to myself personally.
Thank you so much, Lucy and Trent, for your reports tonight and for patiently waiting to give them. All right, student, staff, and community recognition.
I was sent 3 recognition awards for our board members. Enclosed are the WASB member recognition certificates and pins for your school board members who have achieved a new level in the WASB member recognition program in 1920. Members who have achieved a new level of the member recognition program are recognized at that year's fall regional meetings. This year we met virtually, so we are sending the certificates and plaques to district administrators so that you may present them at an upcoming school board meeting. WASB member recognition program recognizes board members for their efforts in leadership and board development. Points are awarded to school board members for their attendance at or involvement in various WASB and National School Board Association programs and events. More details about the programs are available online at wasb.org under Communication Services. Members may view their member recognition points and monitor them throughout the year by logging into wasb.org and clicking on My Portal. It says, please be advised that the online portal tracks points in a calendar year, but the member recognition points program is based on a school year. We miss presenting these awards in person, so if you have an opportunity to take photos of the member recognition presentation, please send them to WSB Communications Director Sherry Kraus. So do not go until Peggy gets a picture of each of you separately, and we'll get that online. Mr. Granlund.
What?
What level was yours, Mr. Granlund?
Level 1.
Level 1.
You're
Nancy Lynn, award level 3.
Thank you.
Rachel Zwicky, award level 1.
Thank you. Comments from the audience. This is not the forum for School District of Maple personnel concerns. The public needs to refrain from the use of names or specific positions when used in a negative manner. If you have concerns that involve personnel or staff members, please contact the building principal or the superintendent. Are there any comments from our audience tonight? All right. Hearing none, I would look for a motion to adjourn.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn tonight's meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.